why good builders won't start your project tomorrow and why that is a good thing. If you're getting a builder coming in straight away and they're saying, yeah, we can start tomorrow, that is a red flag.
With the way the world is at the moment, we know that everybody is expecting or has an expectation that projects can get started tomorrow. But as we discussed through our sort of initial contacts with potential clients and going through some of the leads that come through, is that point of we're not going to be able to start tomorrow because we've got about 50 things that we have to cover before we can actually start. We can't just get trades at the drop of the hat to start tomorrow because they've got workload that they've got to take care of. So we've got to be planning ahead before we can get into anything like that.
Thinking about building or renovating? Or maybe you are already knee-deep in a project now. Are you feeling unsure of which steps to take and if you are making the right calls? You're not alone. Welcome to Builders Beyond Borders, the podcast where experienced Aussie builders share real stories, insider tips, and practical advice so you can build with confidence, avoid costly mistakes, and actually enjoy the journey. Let's dive in.
Hey everyone, welcome to Builders Beyond Borders. I am your host today, Andy from Perway Construction Services here in Western Australia, and I haven't been on here in a while, and I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. There's potentially another builder going to join in the next 10-15 minutes, but that's okay. I'm here today with Mr. Hugh from New Real Homes over on the other side of Australia, and he is joining me today. We're going to have a bit of a topic conversation and trying to keep most of these topics very relevant in the construction side. And today's question, what we're going to be talking about, is why good builders won't start your project tomorrow and why that is a good thing. So that's what we're going to be diving into today, having a bit of a conversation back and forth, myself and you. Mr. Hugh, how are you?
I am absolutely sensational, Andy. It's been a good couple of weeks. I tell you what, it's been very busy. And today, with the poignant question of why a good builder won't start your project tomorrow, there's probably been something that I've been discussing a lot with potential clients lately. So I think it's perfect timing to be discussing this. So looking forward to this.
Good man. So I think when we will have a chat back and forth, I think Paul is going to come in too. If Paul jumps in, we'll bring him involved. So how do you explain to a client why there is a way to start their project? Like, give us some insights for the builders community. Like, tell us your building processes just to help your clients through this topic.
It really is a real poignant sort of question right now because we know that with the way the world is at the moment, we know that everybody is expecting or has an expectation that projects can get started tomorrow. And the sense of urgency is there with everybody. Oh, we want to go ahead and when we find a good builder, I want to start tomorrow. I've got the urgency. I've got the expectation. I've got the money. I want to go ahead tomorrow. Can we start? Where we get those questions all the time, but is it actually going to work? I mean, we've already discussed things like red tape and the little hurdles that we've all got to jump over to be able to sort of get somewhere. But as we discussed through our sort of initial contacts with potential clients and going through some of the leads that come through, is that point of we're not going to be able to start tomorrow because we've got about 50 things that we have to cover before we can actually start. And some of it is compliance stuff. Some of it is just business stuff because without lead times within the work that we do, we can't organize things. We can't just get trades at the drop of the hat to start tomorrow because they've got workload that they've got to take care of. So we've got to be planning ahead before we can get into anything like that. So that's why some of the processes that we do employ to have those initial conversations with potential clients is working out whether, one, we can work together, and obviously bringing everything into the realistic expectations. That's probably the biggest factor that we find when we're discussing any project with any potential client is whether they are actually being realistic with what they're looking for or whether they're not being realistic. And that's probably the first thing that we do actually work out is whether things are going to be realistic. And in that first conversation that we generally do have with somebody, because we do have a couple of conversations with the potential client before we necessarily meet them, or go out to their house to have a little bit of a look, find out. So with this process can take anywhere from just to be able to sort of get in the door and have a face-to-face. It might take a week to sort of get to there. There might be a couple of phone conversations, finding out who we're talking to, what the expectations are going to be, and then of course being able to sort of relay our process to that potential client as well. So we go through all of that and just try to find that realistic expectation on what's going to be happening, whether there is going to need to be an adjustment to plans, need to go and get a permit, or need to, like, for instance, and this comes down to the realistic thing, is where we know that if someone's looking at, just say, a kitchen renovation, hypothetically speaking, a kitchen renovation has a long lead time. And these days, we're looking at anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks before you can even look at getting any joinery on site. 8 to 12 weeks. And the planning that goes into that is obviously the drawings for it all, then confirmation on selections, and you've got to go through this process. You don't go through that process, that you're not going to get a kitchen. And so 8 to 12 weeks. And that's the realistic thing that we need to actually discuss with everybody when we're having those initial conversations. Okay, we can move into this, we can look at it, and it's going to take time. It's not going to happen tomorrow, unless, like, let's just say we have a conversation at the start of the year in January, which this year was one of those fun years when we were getting leads, probably 10 leads a day in January. Go figure that one. I don't know why, but January was just 10 leads a day, which was great. But there was a lot of people that must have been sitting around thinking, yeah, well, let's look at doing this. Like a lot of things, leads are just leads. But somebody's looking at something in January, they might have a conversation with somebody, they get some plans in their eyes, they got some ideas in their heads, and then they might go and spend a little bit of time working out what they want, going and doing some selections in the background, and then they might come back in, say, 4 months' time and say, oh, we've worked it all out, we know exactly what we want. You said it was going to be, you didn't have a slot for 4 months or something. Can we get into it? I did have a slot, but you didn't book into it back in January. So that slot's gone now, but it's been filled by somebody else. Another fun thing is so I've had that before, where the expectation was, the slot would still be available. Well, we don't sit around holding a slot just because you want to get some ideas or something like that. Without you locking that in, that slot is going to be filled by somebody else who's wanting to go in that time, and they can be decisive, and they know they understand all the expectations, and they go through and they sign on the dotted line and go, yep, right, we want to fill that slot. We want you to do the work, and away you go. Like anything, it's the planning process. It is the planning process, and that can take time depending on what you're looking to achieve. But if you're looking to do a renovation, don't expect boots on the ground the next day.
Yeah, I think going back to that point that you mentioned, you just said about the time just for a kitchen and given the expectations. So exactly what you just said there about potentially up to so many weeks to just to get kitchen cabinetry on site. What we've started in our business is, when I'm in that first meeting, I'm trying to understand. So I'm just giving the listeners a bit of an insight here, because we get a lot of people just like yourself, leads come through and they have no experience whatsoever in the construction site. And they do think what you just said to you is, we can come out straight away, we can start very soon. So that's not possible. But what I do throw into the first round of the meeting now is, what is plan B? And then when I say that to the people, they're like, what do you mean? And this has only happened very recently because we had some help in the business. And I sit around that table and I try to understand the big vision. And then the lovely question I would recommend any builder to say to their client is, what is plan B if this doesn't happen? And that is back on the client to make a decision to go, oh, we haven't thought of that. Well, what happens if I come in and I'm over 100 or 200 grand over your budget? What is plan B? Well, we can't do this project then. Well, we need to know this now, because I've tracked this to find out where It could be anything from 3 to 6 to 8 months with us to get a building permit. And we'll go through all that journey, what you just mentioned, you. From the on-site meeting to get a building permit with Perway can take anything from 3 months to 8 months. That's where it could be. We, as a builder, could be putting in between 30 to 60 man hours of effort and energy with a client till that building permit. And that's a long time. That's why we have our services, you, just like yourself. We get paid as a consultant at the front end, and we're coming in really to help the client to figure out what's possible. Now, you imagine going through that whole process, and at the very end, which has happened to me, I was back in the day, is a client is disappointed when we delivered that last proposal. And that option B at the front end is when we recap that conversation. We'll come back in and go, okay, now we're gone past it. Just to let you know, this is the end price. How are you feeling? And I give them a bit of time to sink that in, because usually it always goes over what the client's expectations is. I imagine it's the same for you.
Yep.
And then we go back to that option B. Okay, what is option B now? Okay, we're going to option B, guys. This is where we're at. We need to scale back. We need to take a lot back. And it just gives clients a bit of an understanding going, okay, now this is the bigger picture. So that is why we have to make sure at the front end is we're the right fit, and we have to set the expectations, So starting at the front, is it possible? Why the topic today, why good builders won't start your project tomorrow? Because that takes time. That's the process. So I'm just giving my input for people coming through and trying to find a builder. If you're getting a builder coming in straight away and they're saying, yeah, we can start tomorrow, that is a red flag,
Yep.
So I'd be very, very mindful of that. So that's a bit of my side, you. So another question I would like to ask you is, have you ever started a job too early to please a client and regretted it? So like real stories here, you guys, like don't give
Real
any
stories.
names, but we want to give the stories for listeners to understand on this is happening and this what can come up.
Oh, it's one of those funny things, something that just sort of came to my mind as you were just sort of talking then. We don't want to be saying, I told you so.
I know.
And that's where the conversation at the beginning really sort of comes from. And this is where I've spent probably just recently, there's been a few times where it has been that aspect of, I had to tell you I told you so, but do you remember this conversation that we had back at the beginning? Even then, I'm not turning around saying I told you so or anything like that. It's a sort of like a rub in the face of somebody when they're getting the reality check, I guess you'd say, at the time. It is more of, do you remember the conversation we had back then? Now, we had this conversation where we were looking at what potentially could be happening, and now we're at that point where it has happened. And back then I was trying to prepare you for that. So now that we've prepared you for it, how are you feeling about it? And goes back to what you were saying, how do you feel about what's in front of you now? And then flows on into the people that want to get started straight away. and what do we get? We get the ones where we do have those projects where we've looked at things and we could get started a little bit sooner, but has it presented more challenges down the line? Look, yes, it comes down to one big thing for me, and on a job recently where selections weren't done and they weren't locked in place before we were starting. Client was sitting there saying, "Oh, no matter what happens, we'll do the selections and we'll get all those over to you. And when you need them, you just let us know." That's great, but if we do that during the project, you understand that there's going to be variations, and with the variations, not only does it come with a change in cost, which then you might not be prepared for, and because you've committed to something now, and then you find out later that the cost is X amount higher, it could present a problem for you then. Will you run out of money? Oh, no, we won't run out of money. We've got the money. It's fine. They ran out of money. Yeah, it's turned into a massive problem. And they ran out of money. Job wasn't able to be finished. They weren't able to pay the bills, and the project got terminated.
And is this a job that you've done? Is this what you've done for a client, and then it ended up not working out? So you didn't get paid also on this project?
I did not get paid.
Yeah, so there you go. So it's when I always hear these stories now about because everyone blames the builder straight away, and they blame it's his fault, his this. But there's always two sides to the story, if that makes sense. And that's why it's good to hear from your side today, because that is happening every day. Do you know?
It is.
Clients start this project. Is sad to hear that's happened to you, and that's how builders are going under, which is unfortunately, which actually one job can actually cripple a builder and just put them under, which is that's what's happening. And that's what's happening in the last few years during COVID. Up to 4,000 to 5,000, 6,000 builders have gone, whatever the number is, which is crazy. A bit of a story on my side why Paul is listening in, because we'll ask Paul about his job that he's ever started and regretted it, and any story from that would be good. But for us, the top of my mind today would be we done a big job there probably 2 years ago. The client was amazing to work for, probably one of our best jobs we ever done, but she didn't want an interior designer in the package. And financially, they had a big business. They had no problem paying variations, but they had a lot of variations in that project. And that took a lot of time and energy. And we were very flexible to help on variations and not charging administration fees, because there was a lot, guys. And I mean a lot. And at the end of the project, we presented, and they were so happy with the project and they were so happy with everything. And I just said, what is the big lesson here? What's would you do different? And I would have done this: hire an interior designer on the front end of the project, especially in a brand new project. And that could have been a $4,000 to $10,000 investment at the front end, but all the specifications and everything would have been easy, wrapped, done, and it would have been easy for all the trades. Now, again, they were so happy that Perway Construction was the builder, but that was the big lesson. And for us too, is now that is on the package of every renovation. If we're not going to do the scheduling and the specifications, we will get a consultant in, and the client will spend up to 15 to 25 hours with that interior designer going through the whole job and seeing what's possible. And I highly recommend that. If someone's listening today, that's my number one tip. And because builders are good at building stuff, but asking me to do specification and tiles, not the best, guys. That is not that's not my area of work. So Paul,
not our forte.
Not our forte. Paul, welcome, Independent Building Solutions. Good to see you and listening today. What is one job or one story that's coming to the top of your mind that you've started probably too early and you regret it, or you have some stories to share to our listeners?
Good morning, guys. Good to see you. There's been a few, but really, I got to say, I've been pretty fortunate. You know, like I've done this for nearly 40 years now, and I haven't had too many issues. But the worst clients we ever had, I can ever remember, was only about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was just a case of the same as what you were saying, Andy. Like they just kept adding extras, and they really couldn't afford it. They were living out of their means. They were sort of spending money they didn't have, and of course, that's what causes problems. I think the only problems I've really ever had with jobs has been that type of thing. People sort of living out of their means and trying to do what they can't afford and expecting you to work for nothing to help them out. Mm-hmm. And these people just added $100,000 worth of extras to a $400,000 job, and then expected us to rebuild the whole house from the ground up. Like it was just. They just accused us of damaging walls to get them repainted. They accused us of damaging floors to get them repaired. And we just kept doing it because we just thought, we'll get it done. We'll get out of here. We'll just get this job done. But it just went on and on and on. It was never going to end, so it didn't leave on good terms there. We did try pretty hard, but it's just sometimes just some people, it just doesn't matter what you do. They're never happy, are they? And that's the one. And like I say, I'm very fortunate in all the time I've been doing it. That's really the only one that sticks in mind that's ever been like that. I had the painter call me aside a couple of times and say, look, these marks on this wall are old. They're not new. I said, yeah, just paint the wall for her. Keep her happy. We were doing an extension on their home, so painting the existing home wasn't part of it. But it just kept trying to creep back. And it was the same with the floor. The vinyl guy said, you can tell the marks are old. They're not new. They're not fresh. People don't sort of. There's an old deck out the front that had been built by someone that was really, really bad. Some weekend, they didn't build it. It was there when they bought the house, but it was built by a weekend warrior and wasn't very good. And I made sure I took a few photos of it before we started because we were doing a second story extension, so we had to scaffold around it, support it, and do things like that. And of course, sure enough, we got accused of damaging the deck, but I had all the photos. See, and this happened a couple of times towards the end of the job because I was making sure I tracked things because this just went on and on and on. And it was never going to end well. There was just no way you're getting away from these people. So it's a shame you get people like that, but these things happen.
I think it's great to hear from an expert like yourself, Paul. 40 years, like 4 decades, that is massive experience behind you. And it's so good to hear them stories because there is builders out there and doing amazing things. And especially with the residential sector, if something like that happens and clients are very petty, like what you said about the deck or the painting, your type of builder just comes in and gets it fixed. And project builders wouldn't do that. Do you know? That's a variation. That's unforeseen stuff. That's where the bad energy will come into that play.
Yeah, well, we always try and do the best we can for people, and you don't mind going the extra mile if people appreciate it. But and most people do. 99% of people do appreciate it. They're grateful, aren't they? And that's what keeps you going and makes you. It's the rewarding side of it. You know, you got happy, grateful customers at the end of the day. But
Yeah.
yeah, but it's you got to take a good out of it too, and it's sort of what led me to meeting you guys really, because when I had that problem, I'd had another job that I had a few issues with. It wasn't anywhere near as bad, and I just started, a lot of people just point blame, at the other people, don't they? I sort of thought, well, there's issues here. Need to look at these issues. How can I address these issues? And then I started looking for sort of help, and that's led me to business coaching, and that's when I got involved with Builder's Business Black Belt. That's when I met you guys. So, and I've sort of learnt a lot of a lot of people have only are the way they are because they've had a bad experience. Because and this goes for any small business too. I know we're builders, so we're talking about builders, but they've had a bad experience or someone's done the wrong thing by them. And you look back and think, well, sometimes probably didn't deal with things as the best way. Sometimes maybe I could have dealt with it differently. But you live and learn, and you take a good out of it and move forward, don't you? So that's the one positive that you can get out of that sort of thing, I guess.
I think going what you just mentioned there about having the coaching, guys, is just recapping this last night, myself and Louise. I'm in this community now for the last 5 years with Mick and Julie, and the cost of we've saved on our lives for the last 5 years is you can't put a number on it, because when you just mentioned there, you live and learn. Sometimes, Paul, people don't live and learn in the construction, and they actually end up giving up and they close their business because it's too hard. Do you know? So the mindset shift in this group that we're with and who we're with has really benefited not just me, my life, but the clients that we work for. Because I'm coming in as a confident builder, and I'm given when items come up, and they do come up, it's how you communicate and move through that process with the client. And I tell that to the clients, like, no build is going to be smooth here, guys. If you think that's happening, I have to tell you that is not. That's dreamy dreamland. So unfortunately, hiccups will come. We'll talk about it, and we'll walk through that. So I can't put a number of what we've learned in the last 5 years through making the mindset. Like I really said that to Louise last night. I'll just give you an example to the listeners. We don't work for friends, family, or anyone from my school. And I've laid that law down for the last so many years. And last night, Louise received a text message from one of her friends. And Louise asked her, how is your experience going with the builder? And she said, awful. And she said, it's just a nightmare. She said, we're gone over budget and he's just going to get us to lock-up stage, and it's not working out. And like, imagine if we took on that project. This is why I don't work for anyone in my school. Because I don't want any bad energy coming through. I don't want to go in and someone giving out about our brand or a build. Something's come up. Now, I would love to talk to the other builder to understand what happened there, because obviously there's two sides to every story. But imagine now that lady going down to all of her school friends and talking about her journey with her, what's happening there. That could be nuts, do you know? So that's my rule. I try to do this 3 rules: is no friends, no family, and no one from school. And that's just where I'm staying with. And it has been very beneficial for us, because when you hear that story last night, it's like, wow, that is why we have this process. That's why we do this. So I don't know about you guys. Do you have something like that also in your business, or have you got anything else you can help the listeners today?
I think the mindset stuff's the most important one. I think, Andy, that's like you say, what we've learnt the most about the last few years with Mick and Julie, and because you got to stop and think, like, don't overreact, look at it differently, try and sort of find a way around, and try and sort of communication is very important. And like Mick always coaches us on, that's the quality of the customer's experience is the most important thing. And when you start to look at it from that angle, you think, yeah, right, it's really important. And when you look back at the issues you have had in the past where things haven't worked out right, I think, well, that's how we could probably fix that. We could address that issue by just focusing more on the communication and the customer experience instead of providing a quality product, because providing a quality product is what everyone thinks it's about, but the process is a lot more to it than that, because you're sort of invading people's, particularly with the renovation work we're talking about. Yeah, they're invading people's houses, overtaking their life. It's a huge disruption. it's a huge upset to their routine. So it's having your mind in the right place to be able to go deal with that side of things. It's more the dealing with people's emotions and people's needs than the actual job itself, isn't it? Which is what's the biggest thing that I think that I've learned the last couple of years.
Yeah, brilliant. And for you?
I mean, going through the experiences that we have from a builder's perspective, we have the good, the bad, and one of the things has been learning and actually implementing the changes within the business to be able to manage and proactively manage something when there is a problem, because that is one of the things that we noticed with previous businesses that we've seen or other builders that have worked with particular clients has been the reactive approach. Whereas with a proactive approach, we see a problem where, and we can have that conversation, and we can not necessarily sort of tick off the box and say, no, that problem solved or anything like that, but more of we've got the opportunity to have the discussion before it gets out of hand, before it becomes a massive dilemma. And like what's happening to lose friends at the moment, where things are going pear-shaped, we can go, okay, well, we can see a problem arising here. We don't want it to get down that road. We want to work with you so that you get a good experience. How do we actually achieve that? It might be by going down this road, going down that road, but if we want to avoid the pain, we're going to have to do something now, rather than wait till afterwards.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's that front end is so important, guys. It's it's so beneficial just to be at that front end and making sure we're there to help and guide the clients. A question I'll probably finish off today is: do you think the long wait times will ease soon, or is this the new normal? Like, what do you think, guys, from your side? Is people going to be waiting a long time for the whole process, or do you ever think it's going to be slowing down in the building side of it?
I honestly think that the wait times are going to get longer. I honestly think that they are, because if we just look at the amount of building practitioners that are not there now or have disappeared or anything like that, and a lot of people aren't getting into trades because they're finding easier ways to earn a few bucks. The thing is that with that sort of thing dwindling down, the good operators are fewer and far between. The inevitable part of that is the longer lead times and the wait times that you can't get in because the good guys have a capacity. And we know that trying to sort of fit into that, you've got to be able to lock that in earlier to be able to get into that possible 6 to 12 month wait time to get in with somebody to do the work. I've got a feeling at the moment, look, I think it's going to become more of a problem. And with government saying that they want to get all these homes built, they can want all these homes built, but there's only a certain capacity that the population of building practitioners in Australia can actually achieve.
Yeah, no, good point to you. I said, what's your 2 cents in this, Paul?
It's interesting, how times have sort of changed a lot too, though, since like where we are in Canberra, the population's grown by more than double since I left school, from 200,000, I think it was back then, to it's about 500 now. And now that we've run out of land, see, we had a lot of land back then. There was farmland being subdivided, and there was houses going up both sides of town everywhere. Now there's no land left, so it's getting like the same as where it would be in the cities. Where you guys are, like Perth, Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane, all those places have been for quite a long time. It's only redevelopment. It's knockdown rebuild, or it's dual occupancy. It's all that sort of stuff that's going to go on now. So what you see a lot of these high-rise apartments going up. So that's the commercial builders that are, doing it somewhere where back when I was an apprentice, we would have built 6 houses. Well, now they put a tower on there with a couple of hundred apartments in it. So it's just more of that condensed sort of housing, and it's just a different sort of lifestyle. People are things cost a lot more to live, so people have to both work to pay a mortgage and that sort of thing. You can't have the stay-at-home mums that we had back in those days, so families are getting smaller. It's just a different demographic all round, isn't it? So I think, that takes a lot of the work away from new home builder that doesn't do the commercial high-rise, but it still creates a lot more work for the developers who want to redevelop areas, and for the builders that are doing extension renovation work on existing homes. So I think we're human beings are funny. We gravitate to where we need to be, don't we? And it's just that a lot of people don't want a yard because they're not having kids because they can't afford it. They both got to work, so the apartments work out for them. So I think in terms of the time frame, I think the units will keep going up. Around the cities, the big high-rise towers will just keep going up around the cities, and obviously it slows down a lot out in the suburbs because there's not as much going on. And like you said, there is a shortage of trades then too because they all get into something else. Or they all move on.
Yeah, it's good points, and I do 100% agree. Everything what you're saying is definitely people are trying to either downsize. The mortgage is gone. People are definitely financially struggling, and putting kids in the spanner too is definitely adding more cost to that. What do I see here in Perth is there is still a shortage of tradies, and there is not many good builders. Well, there is good builders, but I'm finding that I'm getting a lot of inquiries, guys, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting a lot. And again, a lead is like a lead that you just mentioned this morning. It's not guaranteed. You might get 30 leads in the month. You might only get 2 good people out of that 30, which is the ratio there is not the best, if that makes sense. So I just tell people, it's like, how long is this whole process and wait times? I said, all we have to do is go through the process with the likes of Perway, come in, do the whole on-site consultation through the building permit, and that can take anything from 3 to 8 months, depending on how long it goes. Then once we find the board, we find the slots, we find the tradies, then we start locking the job. So if people are listening today, you could be in 6 months to a year and a half for the whole journey to get a renovation build done. That's where it could take anyone. That's what I'm trying to help people today. If any young listeners listen today and he's thinking about what to do after school, a bit of background, guys, I would highly recommend you get into a construction trade. Like, there's going to be a massive shortage of tradies here in the next 5-10 years. And if you're coming through the pipeline and you're thinking of what should I do, it is a hard thing to start off with, especially carpentry. It's the most expensive trade if you're going to go out there. Be an electrician. Very easy to be an electrician nowadays. I wish I went back and been an electrician. Oh my God. I said, bring in one little toolbox of tools for less than $1,000 and away you go.
But as a Sparky, would you have gotten into being a builder?
Of course. No, listen, that's it. And actually, I can't anyways, guys. I'm actually a colourblind builder. Do you believe that?
Well, colour blindness, I just learned that recently because my son's colourblind, and we're discussing this with an eye specialist, is electrical trades no good for colour blindness. I was amazed by that. So
yeah.
Well, it'd be a bit dangerous, wouldn't it? That's right. Yeah. So, but that's why you need the interior designer, see, Andy. So
exactly. But like, guys, like I said, that's just a little like, really, people are going to be listening to us and they're going to be like, oh, there's builders. But like, if there's little young lads coming through there and they're 16 to 20, take my 2 cents looking in as 20 years in the construction game. Go for 6 months and pick a tradie and try it out. You have nothing to lose, and try every one of them trades if you can. Because if we can find young guys coming through here and just listen to our podcasts around the world and they're like, I took that lad's advice and I became a tradie, I guarantee you're going to reap the benefits in the next 5, 10, 15 years, because you'll be the next generation coming through. We need tradies coming through. And I know that's gone off the topic here today, but like, just trying to help young lads coming through, because there is a big demand, and we need these guys coming through. So if you see any of the guys, or let them listen to this podcast at the end. So just go to the very end of this podcast and listen to this guy. He's telling you should be a tradie. Do it. That's my recommendation.
Well, to add on to that, even is before people are even getting close to sort of being out of school or anything like that, is while they're in school and they've got school holidays and that sort of thing, send your kids out to work. Send your kids out onto job sites with tradies and that sort of thing. Not to throw them in the deep end or give them a dodgy holiday, but I was discussing it with some drainers on site this morning, where they're not impressed by the fact that there's so many young guys that could be doing they're at school and they could be going out onto a job site with somebody, earning a little bit of cash during the school holidays for themselves, and it's not going to be the most amount of money in the world, but it's going to be, get out there and do a little bit of hard work. It'll be good physical labor that'll get your heart racing, and you'll be out with the boys. You'll be doing a little bit of banter, or even if it's the girls that get out there and do it as well. Not going to stop you from doing it if you want to try it. And just because we were reminiscing on what it was like when we were kids, And like my school holidays when I was sort of 13, 14, 15 was spent on job sites with a plumber digging holes.
Mm.
Um,
Now look you. You're in your own building company.
That's right. And like even my son who's 15 now, he came out and he was helping us demolish a house a couple of weeks ago. So
Brilliant.
that little thing, I think all kids, all teenagers should get out there and give it a go just to see. Doesn't mean you have to go right into it, but
I said this is another topic we can actually do on another podcast, guys, like why let's push kids going through the tradies. So that'll be another podcast we'll do. Guys, thanks a million. This is Builders Beyond Borders, and I was your host, Andy from Perway Construction in Western Australia. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Hugh. Really appreciate your time today, guys, and thanks for input.
Thanks for tuning in to Builders Beyond Borders. If today's episode helped you feel more prepared, clearer, or more confident, share it with a mate who's planning their own build or reno. Got a question about building, renovating, or working with tradies? Send it our way. We might cover it in a future episode. And don't forget to hit follow or subscribe so you never miss the real stories, practical tips, and builder insights we've got coming your way. Everything shared on this podcast is based on our experiences and those of our guests. It's general info only. Any reliance on the information provided is done at your own risk.